The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Day 14 of the federal trial against Sean "Diddy" Combs commenced. No one expected the next witness to be Adam Sandler, beloved comedian, Hollywood icon, and unlikely voice in a high-profile legal battle. As he took the stand, the atmosphere shifted. Gone was the goofy charm audiences knew so well. In its place was a man carrying the weight of years spent in silence. His voice trembled slightly as he began recounting experiences that had haunted him for over a decade. What started as what he described as a close friendship had spiraled into a psychological nightmare, one that left him feeling humiliated, manipulated, and afraid. He wasn't here for headlines or revenge. He was here to tell the truth, no matter how painful it was to relive. The trial had already seen its fair share of dramatic moments, but nothing could have prepared the public for Sandler's testimony. Diddy, once hailed as a music mogul and cultural force, now sat behind the defense table, his usual swagger subdued. Sandler's words painted a picture of a man who wielded influence not just through fame, but through fear. He described the first time things felt off, during a weekend trip to Diddy's Miami mansion. It wasn't the opulence that unsettled him, but the subtle pressure to comply with bizarre rituals. That night marked the beginning of a toxic dynamic that would follow him for years. The court listened intently as he set the stage for what would become a harrowing journey through betrayal, coercion, and emotional control. As Sandler spoke, the courtroom leaned in, absorbing every detail. He described the moment Diddy led him into a marble steam room after dinner, dimly lit and filled with incense, like something out of a surreal dream or a trap. Diddy insisted they cleanse together, calling it a bonding ritual among brothers. Reluctantly, Sandler stepped inside, keeping his boxers on despite Diddy's insistence otherwise. But when Diddy leaned in and whispered, "You think I let you in my circle just to make jokes?" Sandler said he felt the shift. It was more than a joke, more than a prank. It was a veiled threat, a moment where the line between friendship and manipulation blurred. From that night forward, Sandler admitted he couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed forever. He continued, describing the second incident just weeks later at Diddy's Los Angeles home. It started innocently enough, a casual hangout, watching an old comedy. But then came the unsettling request: nap together. Though visibly uncomfortable, Sandler agreed, hoping to avoid confrontation. Lying beside Diddy, frozen and alert, he recalled hearing those chilling words, "You're mine now." That nap, he said, was the longest hour of his life. He left the house shaken, driving home while crying uncontrollably. Still, he didn't speak out. He told himself it was an isolated event, a misunderstanding. But deep down, he knew better. The control Diddy exerted was psychological, subtle and deeply damaging. And it was only the beginning. The breaking point came years later during a private retreat in Aspen. Sandler had agreed to go because the event was public and surrounded by industry peers. But Diddy had other plans. He convinced Sandler to ride snowmobiles up to a secluded lodge, away from the crowd. Once there, the atmosphere turned ominous. A camera was set up. Silk shorts and a robe were laid out. Diddy insisted Sandler change, saying, "Now we're equals, no layers, no lies." When Sandler refused to remove everything, Diddy tried to pull off his robe. That was the moment Sandler realized he had to walk away. He fled the lodge, heart pounding, knowing he'd crossed a line Diddy wouldn't forget. That night, he felt violated. Not physically, but emotionally shattered. And the worst part? He couldn't explain why. Over the years, Sandler confessed that the emotional toll became unbearable. Night terrors plagued him, leaving him waking up drenched in sweat, heart racing. He avoided late-night appearances, declined interviews, and became increasingly withdrawn. People assumed he was being selective about projects, but the truth was far darker. He was scared. He didn't know what Diddy might do if he pushed back. In therapy, years later, he finally put a name to what had happened: psychological abuse. Trauma doesn't always leave bruises, he explained, but it leaves echoes. Echoes that followed him onto film sets, into homes, even into moments meant to bring joy. One such moment was during the filming of Uncut Gems, where a location triggered panic attacks due to its resemblance to Diddy's Aspen Lodge. Sandler revealed that he tried speaking out before, once in 2010, when he drafted a letter to his agency warning them about Diddy's behavior. They told him to drop it, fearing career consequences. Then again in 2021, during a podcast interview, but the controversial line was edited out before airing. It felt like a ghost haunted every project he worked on. He heard Diddy's voice in his head, telling him he belonged to him. But this trial, this courtroom, was different. For the first time, he felt believed. He described a turning point in 2016, during a charity gala where Diddy pulled him aside backstage and reminded him, "Make me look good out there. You owe me that." That moment reignited the fire in him. That night, he finally told his wife everything. And for the first time in years, he slept soundly. Gathering evidence became Sandler's quiet mission. He unearthed emails, reviewed voicemails, and located surveillance footage from a hidden backup tied to Diddy's old security system. That footage confirmed what he feared. Diddy had recorded parts of their interactions without consent. One folder labeled Private Aspen Weekend contained scenes of Sandler in a robe, pressured to enter a tub filled with baby oil. Later, he received a threatening USB drive containing a clip from that tape, along with a note: "Be careful what you say. We all have ghosts." It was then he reached out to others who had distanced themselves from Diddy, realizing he wasn't alone. Many had faced similar threats: cryptic messages, blackmail attempts, and silent intimidation. The system Diddy built wasn't just about power. It was about control. As the courtroom absorbed the full scope of his testimony, Sandler addressed the jury directly. He wasn't seeking revenge, he clarified. This wasn't about taking Diddy down. It was about reclaiming his voice. He described visiting a children's hospital in 2022, where a young cancer patient asked him, "Why are you sad in your eyes?" That question broke him. If a child could see the pain still lingering, it meant the shadow Diddy left behind hadn't fully lifted. Looking directly at Diddy for the first time that day, he said, "You took my peace. You took my voice. But you didn't take my truth." Those words hung in the air, heavier than any punchline he'd ever delivered. With that, he stepped down, not as a comedian, not as a movie star, but as a man who had finally reclaimed the part of himself that had lived too long in the dark. The final round of questioning brought more revelations. Prosecutors asked Sandler about the infamous recording, the one he never knew existed until recently. He explained how recovered surveillance footage showed Diddy leading him into a spa room, pressuring him to join him in a tub filled with bubbles and baby oil. The camera captured everything, including Diddy's smug laughter when Sandler refused. That footage, though never released publicly, was enough to keep Sandler fearful for years. He described receiving a threatening envelope containing a snippet of the tape and a chilling message. He realized then that Diddy had been building leverage on multiple people: celebrities, former collaborators, even a former child star who had also been targeted. It was a system of blackmail built on fear and silence. and Sandler had been one of many victims. When asked if he felt safe now, Sandler hesitated. "Not completely," he admitted. "But I feel heard, and that's a start." He concluded by addressing the world beyond the courtroom. To anyone who had ever felt too small to speak up, too broken to fight back, or too silenced to be believed, his story was proof that their pain mattered. He wasn't the first. He wouldn't be the last. But maybe, just maybe, he could be the loudest. As he walked out of the courthouse, flanked by his family, reporters swarmed him. But he didn't stop to speak. There was nothing left to say. The truth had spoken for itself. And for the first time in nearly 2 decades, Adam Sandler wasn't hiding behind a joke. He was standing tall, free at last.